The
You
wind
always know how
rolled
to make me
across the
smile.
prairie like
It's easy
a
when I'm with
restless
you.
ocean,
Come here.
bending the tall grass into
You always
silver
know how to make
waves
me
beneath
smile.
the setting sun.
It's easy when I'm with you.
Out there,
Come
where the
here.
horizon seemed endless
You
and the
always know how
sky
to make me
stretched
smile.
wider than a man's
It's easy when I'm
pride,
with you.
stood a
Come here.
ranch known as Broken Spur.
You always know how to
It
make me
belonged
smile.
to Caleb Turner,
easy when I'm with
a
you.
man as lean
Come
as a
here.
fence post and twice as stubborn.
You always know how to
Caleb
make me
believed
smile.
in order.
It's easy when I'm with
Straight
you.
fence lines,
Come here.
even rows of cattle.
You
Predictable
always know how to
seasons.
make me
And
smile.
if he was
It's
honest,
easy when I'm with
he
you.
believed in a
Come here.
certain kind of wife. He'd placed an advertisement in the territorial newspaper months ago after deciding that a ranch that size required more than hired hands and quiet evenings. The winters were long, the house too silent. He wanted companionship, help, a woman who would fit neatly into the life he'd already built. In his letter, he'd been clear, though polite. He admired a modest, delicate woman of practical habits. In his mind, that meant slim, soft-spoken, and easily guided into the rhythms of ranch life. He received several replies, but one stood out. Her name was Margaret O'Shea, writing from a small town back east. Her handwriting was bold, her words warm and direct. She spoke of hard work, of caring for younger siblings after her mother's passing, of baking bread before sunrise, and mending clothes by lantern light. She didn't speak of her appearance, and Caleb, too focused on her capable tone, never thought to ask. They exchanged letters for 3 months. Her humor surprised him, her wit challenged him. More than once he found himself smiling at the kitchen table, holding her latest letter in calloused hands. By the time she agreed to travel west, he'd built an image in his head. He imagined someone slight and gentle-looking, stepping down from the train with timid eyes and a shy smile. The train arrived in a cloud of steam and noise. Caleb stood stiffly on the platform, hat pulled low, boots dusty from the ride into town. Passengers began to descend, businessmen, mothers with children, weary travelers blinking at the bright western sun. And then he saw her. Margaret O'Shea did not step down timidly. She descended like someone who had conquered the train instead of ridden it. She was taller than he'd expected, with broad shoulders wrapped in a deep blue traveling dress. Her figure was full and unapologetic, curves outlined confidently by sturdy fabric. Auburn hair escaped from beneath her hat, framing a face alive with sharp green eyes and a smile that didn't wait for permission. She carried her own trunk down with surprising ease before a porter could reach her. Their eyes met. For a flicker of a second, Caleb felt his expectations crack like thin ice. She studied him just as boldly. "You must be Caleb Turner," she said, her voice warm and rich, carrying easily over the station noise. "And you're Margaret?" She extended her hand firmly, in the flesh. Her grip was strong, solid, real. Caleb's mind scrambled to adjust. She wasn't delicate, she wasn't slight, she was vibrant, substantial, undeniably present, the kind of woman who took up space without apology. On the ride back to Broken Spur, the wagon creaked under the weight of her trunk, and, Caleb couldn't help noticing, under her lively conversation. She spoke of the journey, of the landscape she'd passed, of how the air out west felt cleaner. "You've gone quiet," she observed, glancing at him with raised brows. "Just thinking," he replied. "Dangerous habit," she teased. "Best not overdo it." Despite himself, he chuckled. The ranch house stood sturdy but plain against the open land. Margaret stepped down from the wagon and turned slowly in a circle, taking it all in. The barn, the fences, the endless stretch of gold and blue. "It's honest," she said finally. "I like that." Inside, she wasted no time. Within hours, she had opened windows, shaken out travel dust, and reorganized the kitchen in a way that startled Caleb. Jars moved, utensils shifted. By evening, the house smelled like fresh bread instead of stale loneliness. At supper, she ate heartily, praising the quality of his beef and asking pointed questions about cattle prices, water sources, and winter preparations. "You know about ranching?" he asked, surprised. "I know about surviving. Ranching can't be that different." The days that followed unsettled him in ways he hadn't anticipated. Margaret rose before dawn without complaint. She fed chickens, helped patch a section of fence, and once even hauled a sack of grain that one of his ranch hands had struggled with. She laughed easily, worked steadily, and never once asked for lighter tasks. The ranch hands respected her within a week, but Caleb wrestled privately with his own stubborn disappointment. He'd imagined something else, something quieter, something that would slip easily into the shadow of his authority. Margaret cast no shadows. She stood in sunlight. The turning point came on a storm-heavy evening. Dark clouds rolled across the plains, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. The wind battered the ranch house, rattling shutters. Caleb secured the barn while Margaret hurried inside to latch windows. Rain fell in sheets by nightfall. Inside the bedroom, newly shared, still unfamiliar, lightning flashed through thin curtains. They had agreed to marry officially before the local judge the following week, but already they were navigating the fragile closeness of two near strangers building a life together. Tension lingered between them, unspoken expectations pressing against reality. Margaret, sensing it as she sensed most things, turned to him. "You thought I'd be smaller," she said plainly, sitting on the edge of the wooden bed. Caleb froze. She met his eyes steadily. "It's written all over your face since the station." He rubbed the back of his neck, shame prickling beneath his collar. "I had an idea in my head." "Of course you did," she smiled faintly. "So did I." "You did?" "I pictured you taller and less serious." That startled a laugh from him despite the storm outside. Silence stretched, softer now. "I'm not fragile," she continued gently. "If that's what you wanted, you'll be disappointed. I've never been small in body or in spirit, but I won't apologize for that." Another crack of thunder shook the house, and then, as if the storm decided to underline the moment, a loud snap echoed from beneath them. The old wooden bed frame, worn by years and never built for two determined adults, gave way on one side. The mattress tilted sharply, sending both of them scrambling as one leg split clean off. For a stunned heartbeat, they stared at each other. Then Margaret burst into laughter. Not embarrassed laughter, not flustered giggles, deep, wholehearted laughter that filled the room louder than the thunder. Caleb tried to maintain composure, but the absurdity of it all broke through. He began laughing too. There they were, a stubborn rancher and the woman who had upended his careful expectations, sitting crooked on a broken bed while rain lashed the windows. "Guess it couldn't handle us," she managed between laughs. "Or maybe it just wasn't built strong enough," he replied. The laughter eased something tight in his chest. In that moment, Caleb realized something simple and humbling. It wasn't the bed that had been too weak, it was his assumptions. Margaret wasn't what he had pictured, but she was stronger than he had imagined in every way that mattered. The days that followed saw the bed repaired, this time reinforced properly with solid oak beams Caleb cut himself. The ranch house felt different too, warmer, fuller. He began noticing things he'd overlooked before, the way her presence filled empty corners, how her laughter drifted across fields when she walked among the cattle, how her steady hands calmed skittish horses. When winter came early that year, it was Margaret who insisted they prepare extra feed, who double-checked insulation, and who reminded him that survival required planning for worst cases, not best hopes. And when a blizzard trapped them indoors for nearly a week, it was her storytelling, her singing, her fierce optimism that kept the cabin from feeling like a prison. One quiet evening, months later, Caleb stood beside her on the porch, watching the sun melt into amber over the prairie. "I was wrong," he said suddenly. "About what?" Margaret asked, glancing at him. "About what I thought I needed." She studied him carefully. "I thought I wanted someone small, but I needed someone strong." Her smile this time was softer, not triumphant, just knowing. "Good thing you got both," she teased lightly, placing her hand over his heart. The ranch thrived that year, not because the fences were straighter or the cattle fatter, though they were both. It thrived because Broken Spur was no longer ruled by rigid expectations. It was shaped by partnership. Travelers passing through would sometimes hear the story, the one about the rancher who expected a slim bride and got a woman sturdy enough to break his bed on the first stormy night. They'd laugh, but those who stayed long enough saw the truth beneath the humor. They saw a man who learned that love isn't about fitting someone into a narrow frame. It's about building something strong enough to hold two full souls, unapologetic, resilient, and real. Out on the prairie, where the wind still moved like restless water, the Turner Ranch stood firm against the seasons. And inside that house, now reinforced in more ways than one, laughter echoed often. The bed never broke again, but Caleb's old expectations did. And in their place stood something far sturdier: respect, partnership, and a love as wide and uncontained as the Wild West itself.